billion-dollar news agency, depending on which one you're talking about. I mean, we're talking about News Corporation, billions of dollars. And yet Project Veritas, I don't know what your budget was at the time the company was taken from you, but when I was working for you, and hopefully you don't mind me disclosing this, the annual budget was no more than $5 million a year. And yet you were breaking some of the most sensational stories. And so $5 million is really not a lot of money when you're talking about the type of content and the kind of stories that you're breaking on a daily basis. And so I think that a lot of people thought that you were always just kind of going to be put in a box. And then when they saw you get enormous fame and enormous enormous relevancy, especially with the Pfizer story that came out when you exposed the Pfizer staff for talking about the gain of function mutation and how they were talking about maybe just manufacturing another virus so that they could make even more money creating another vaccine, which is pretty crazy. That story went everywhere. And then ultimately, after you released that story, this coup was carried out against you. So well, Matthew, I think that a lot of it had to do with personal jealousy, because I saw your relationship with Tiermond and how he used to say that you guys were brothers, and oh, James is great. He used to call me his sister. And then it's like he snapped. Something changed in him. And then during this time when he was attacking you, he started calling me crazy. He started coming after you. I was getting attacks from other board members at Project Veritas who said that I was a loose cannon, that I was crazy, and that, I was the only person that was going to be supporting James O'Keefe in the end because, the crazy people go with the crazies at the end of the day. Like really crazy, hurtful statements from people who I had only been nice to. And so the only thing that can explain this, which is you can't rationalize an irrational mind, is jealousy. I really honestly think it boils down to jealousy and personal profit.
Laura, is that true, like in the entire media ecosystem? Like across the board, or is it more true in this case?
Well, I find it to be very hard to trust anybody in this industry because, look, I know a lot of people. And, I've had people steal money from me. I've had people lie about me, people block me, sabotage me, just like you have, right? So I don't think that this industry politics in general, especially political media, is a great place to meet friends or make friends, maybe acquaintances, but you really can't trust anybody, but more so in this industry specifically. I think it's very cutthroat because a lot of people want to have power. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this happened during the presidential campaign when there was a lot of money going around to make sure that Donald Trump was not elected. And I know that people oftentimes just think of Project Veritas, but you also have the political wing of Project Veritas Action, which went undercover in campaigns. And I think that a lot of people were probably threatened by your relationship with Donald Trump. And they thought, oh, we're not going to allow for anybody who's an ally of Donald Trump to have any type of platform or any type of exposure during the election while we're subjecting him to lawfare. And who would have exposed the lawfare? Who would have gone undercover to expose the lawfare against Donald Trump? It would have been Project Veritas and Project Veritas Action. And I really do believe that the election and Matthew Tierman's ties to Ron DeSantis and some of the other board members' donations to Ron DeSantis really played a role in what they did to you. That is my personal opinion. I really, really, truly believe that. And I think that some of this information came to light in your deposition. Perhaps you can share that too. But I really honestly thought that from the very beginning.
Well, Matt Tierman has been ordered to be deposed, Laura. He has not yet been deposed, but he will be deposed. And he will be asked these types of questions under oath. And he said that he wants to be deposed, so we intend to depose him. George Skakel has been deposed. Joe Barton has been deposed. And in this film, which you can watch at o'keefemediagroup.com, The Truth Inside Veritas, you will see board members of Project Veritas talk about their conflicts of interest, how they wanted to hurt me, how they're just lying under oath about what happened. I juxtaposed the board meeting to what they said. I know this happened 2 years ago, but even recently, Joe Rogan, for example, has been on the air saying, what happened with that Project Veritas thing? Why doesn't James O'Keefe release all these tapes? The guy who releases tapes hasn't released tapes about Project Veritas. I just did. And it's going to be an ongoing series. It's just part one. There's going to be part 2 and 3. And as we dig more into Matthew Tierman's financial investments, Laura, apparently he worked for a firm called Bradley Woods, and he was soliciting, I didn't know this, board members, staff, to invest in his companies. George Skakel testified that Matt Tierman and him are investors in the same companies, and Skakel refused to answer under oath the nature of those investments. So this is just a very dark world we live in. There's a lot of corruption, and unfortunately, you have to be very careful who you surround yourself with. I learned that the hard way.
Absolutely, you do. What about all of the memorabilia, all of the stuff on the wall? Did you get to keep any of that during the separation, or are they still holding all of those newspapers and, the wall, the content wall that we had where we would put all of our scalps?
Yeah, I lost most of
llama.
that. I lost most of that. I lost everything. I mean, they cut my credit card in half. They brought me out the door. They suspended me. First for 2 weeks, and then like a week later, they fired me. And it was, I have no words to describe how disheartening and discouraging that is. I know we all go through pain. We all go through hardship and suffering in our personal and professional lives. I guess when you create something and you do it, you try to do it for the right reasons. And this petty human jealous crap happens. I lost absolutely everything, Laura. I didn't take a single thing with me, except for my social media following. It grew, I think, thanks to you and others. I think I must have gained 1 million followers in a week, and they lost 500,000 or something like that. And you're following, people donate, people subscribe. But I didn't feel like I brought anything with me. The building, my sister was an architect. And this is right around the time I met you. We actually designed that building, built it out, built the wall of shame, framed everything. I was eventually able to buy back a few of the frames inside headquarters. And I'm here in Florida, and I've rebuilt everything, literally brick by brick. You can see.
What about the pimp jacket?
I was able to take that with me. I took that with me. That was like the one item I physically brought with me when I left the building was the pimp, my grandmother's chinchilla coat. Yes.
You need some real loyal people around you. If I was there, I would have gone into the office in the middle of the night, and I would have taken my SUV, and I would have taken everything off the wall and shoved it in my trunk and taken all those things for you.
Yeah, it was inconceivable.
I don't know. How would you accuse somebody of theft when it's their property? I mean, really, honestly.
Well, they sued
what are they
me.
going to do?
It's worse than that. Project Veritas.
But those are your frames. Those are your scalps.
No, I get you. All of it. None of it actually.
And for people who are listening, they're like, "What the hell is she talking about?" Let me explain to you. So, When I first worked at Project Veritas, the building was so tiny. And it was like it was literally like an office tied to a garage where they used to fix cars. I mean, really, it was just, the tiniest little office ever. So they ended up buying the space, which was an auto garage, an extension of an auto garage next door. And they ended up gutting the entire building. And we had this like really amazing guy, I think his name was Tony, right? Who helped us, gut the entire building. And it took several years to do. And James's sister was an architect, and we designed it. I was there when they were designing the floor plans for the building. And James actually would go in and he would help like do the physical labor, manual labor to help build this office. His father participated too. And so it was really a family effort. It's not like they hired a bunch of Mexicans to just build this office. They honestly did it themselves as a family effort, and they designed everything. And in the office, we had this wall of shame, and it was a scalp wall, and there was an inscription that said, "Content is king." And that's what James O'Keefe used to, well, you, of course, would tell everybody in the office when, we would go through training or anytime we had a story coming out. And so the entire office, when you'd walk in, it was incredible. Like the whole place was just decked out with all these photo frames, and they were very eccentric looking frames, but it was really cool because we would always add these new frames every single time somebody got fired or there was a big time retraction. It was like, we had this thing called like the retraction llama. And it really created just such great energy in the office space. And I just think it's so sad that they stole all of that from you and they wouldn't let you keep it because.
Yeah, but the good news is we are rebuilding here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've got a staff of 20 people. We got a beautiful office here. It's just as big as the one we had in New York.
Yeah, but those are memories, though, and I hope that you're able to get all those memories back because
I thank God every day.
Accomplishments.
I thank God every day. I said this on my show today that I no longer have some of these people in my life, Laura. It was not sustainable. It was not sustainable because you can't have people that are stabbing you and betraying you while you're slaying these dragons, shaming the devil. So good news, bad news. The bad news is, you lost some tangible things. You just described things that can be rebuilt. I mean, look behind me. This is my new space. You haven't seen all of it. I'll take you on a tour soon to my audience, but that can all be rebuilt. Fires burn buildings down, floods happen. Remember the story? And the flood came and just destroyed my office, and I rebuilt it all over again. I mean, FBI raided me. I mean, I've been I've been arrested by the FBI, raided by the FBI, sued dozens of times on federal probation. The hurricane destroyed my office in 2021, and then I was fired from my own company. And this is like life. I mean, it sucks, and you rebuild and you regrow, but the one thing that has changed and the one thing that I have learned is you have to have unbreakable people. Like, I think you're unbreakable. I mean that as a compliment. I think if someone tried to pressure you or bribe you, Laura Loomer, give you money to make you stop doing what you believe in, I believe you would probably covertly record that bribe and publicize it on the internet, right? You would not be susceptible to these people that are trying to change you. And that's why I respect you, because you have a good heart. And unfortunately, and this film is really about the heart of darkness. Let's be honest, that sometimes like you said yourself, there's a fight between the rational and the irrational. And sometimes men do not succumb to their better angels. And what you see in this movie is literally demonic. They sent me a picture of me nailed to a crucifix. That's sick. These are demonic people. They have their own demons and challenges, but you cannot fight this crusade to expose corruption in the government and be filled with these types of demons, because it'll end up destroying you. And that's the lesson I learned, and it was a tough lesson, but I wanted to give the wisdom that I've learned and give it to other people, and I hope people watch this film.
Aside from X, where can people watch the trailer? I know you embedded it on X. It's also on YouTube, correct?
Yeah, YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, Telegram. It's a 2-minute trailer with a 10-minute explanation of, I take you through a journey in the depositions. That's not the movie. That's just my reporting about what happened. But the film itself is really, it's like, it might be one of the best. I think it might even be as good, or if not better, than Line in the Sand. It's really something.
And where do people go to watch the film?
O'KeefeMediaGroup.com. You just subscribe. It's $9, and you can watch the movie.
Well, everybody should definitely go and subscribe to support your work, first of all. And then secondly, they should subscribe so that they can watch the film. So if anything is true about O'Keefe Media Group, or, the previous team at Project Veritas, the one that was taken from you, it's that you guys do phenomenal video editing work too. So you have amazing, compelling directors who really just bring your stories to light and make it very exciting. It's not like you're watching boring news coverage. It's very
this I promise you,
action thriller. It's like an action thriller watching these O'Keefe Media videos and the James O'Keefe films. So I highly recommend it. I had James on tonight because I wanted him to, talk about it. And obviously I always support James. He's like my brother. I love him. But I think the trailer itself is shocking. I think it's even more shocking for me because I know these people, and it's crazy seeing how they turned out to be 10 years after the fact. And I worked with a lot of these people. I traveled with a lot of these people and worked on stories with some of these people. So it hits close to home for me, but it's very compelling. And I would encourage all of you to watch it, especially if you really want to know the real story about the coup at Project Veritas.
It's compelling. It's cinematic. It's enjoyable is the wrong word, but the thing about what we do is we show, we don't tell, and truth is stranger than fiction. So you watch a Netflix show or an Amazon Prime thing about the spy overseas. It's got an element of artifice to it. It almost seems artificial. And I think you know what I'm talking about. It's like, okay, I'm watching a movie. This is not how real life is. But this film is real life. It's real people. It's a real corporate boardroom. They're publishing my private messages. They're falsely accusing me of stealing sandwiches. It's weird, envious, but it takes you on this spiritual journey. And I think you'll live vicariously through me. And I think it's cinema verite. That's what we call it. It's the truth unleashed. And Laura, I really appreciate you having me on to talk about it. And I'm going to go to bed now because I've got a long day tomorrow. A lot of work to be done.
All right, James. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show. We wish you all the success. I'll have to come down and come see you and come visit the office. You'll have to give me a tour. So definitely have to.
Maybe I'll invite you on my in-person studio like you are there, but I'll bring you on the inside with James O'Keefe and we could have a longer conversation. I'd love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds great. Well, thank you, James. And I hope that your film is a hit and that people watching go and subscribe and share your film.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah,
have a good night.
Coming on. You too. Thank you. Oh, been through a lot. It's a lot to have your company destroyed in a hurricane, a natural disaster, and then have your friends, people you thought that you could trust, your board members steal your company from underneath you. It's just really awful. So definitely go and check that out. Before we continue with our program tonight, I want to take a moment to thank tonight's sponsor of Loomer Unleashed, and that, of course, is Kirk Elliott Precious Metals.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. the President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, bitch. We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com/Loomer to learn how you can safely grow your retirement portfolio with precious metals.
Be sure that you head on over to their website, kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. You can schedule a meeting with them on their website by filling out this contact form that they have created for viewers of Loomer Unleashed, or you can call the team of professionals at Kirk Elliott Precious Metals at 720-605-3900. Again, that's 720-605-3900, and let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. It's definitely a great time to invest in silver and gold and to diversify your portfolio and secure your financial future. So Dr. Kirk has been on the program multiple times, and I hear nothing but positive reviews from the Loomer Unleashed viewers who have contacted them and who have purchased gold and silver from Kirk Elliott. So again, kepm.com/Loomer. Let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. They have dedicated professionals available to take your call and answer your requests online every single day of the week. So let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. All righty. Getting back to this terrorist attack that happened last night in Washington, D.C. We need to have a serious conversation in this country about designating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. Obviously, the Palestinian movement is the militarized branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and Loomer Unleashed has really been ahead of the curve in calling this insanity out. In fact, we've been documenting all of the radical jihadist protests where Marxists who are dressed like Luigi Mangione showed up and were chanting free Palestine, free Gaza, and they were literally waving Hamas flags. And we actually created a document because I wanted to see how much footage we actually had. And this is just from this year alone. This isn't even including footage from last year or years prior. This is just this year alone, what we have thus far. And here we go. Loomer Unleashed exclusive footage of pro-Hamas, anti-Trump violence and congressional Dems failure to condemn it. All the way from February 3rd, okay? Ilhan Omar expresses anger about UNRWA being defunded. February 4th, okay? Pro-Hamas, anti-Trump protesters outside of the White House. Chuck Schumer confronted at a pro-Hamas rally. Luigi Mangione fangirls appearing at anti-Trump pro-Hamas protests outside the Capitol. March 15th, right? So why do I show this to you? Because we have pages, multiple pages of evidence documenting this alliance between the radical left, the Marxists, okay, and the radical jihadist Muslims, this Islamo-Marxist alliance that is now turned deadly. And I predict that it's going to continue to be deadly. And we're going to see stabbings and shootings at a lot of these protests because people are now going to want to be copycats. Just like Luigi Mangione inspired some people, okay, inspired some sick and deranged individuals to get dressed up and go around threatening to assassinate Donald Trump and Elon Musk. There are going to be copycats who think it's okay to just take a gun to a protest and shoot people, or go to Jewish events, walk inside synagogues, shoot them up. And look, it's not just, they're not just killing Jews. It's my understanding that these individuals, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, were Messianic Jews. That means they're Christians. So, you know, people can say, oh, you know, this is like a Jewish issue, and they can be, you know, anti-Semitic all they want, and they can attack Zionists all they want, and they can talk about Zionism all they want. But at the end of the day, these people are killing Christians too. It's not just Jews that they're killing. They're killing anybody who they think is an ally to Israel. And so people better wake up and realize that this violence is coming to a city near them if Donald Trump does not designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. This was supposed to be done during the first Trump administration, if you recall. And years ago, right? Before the time of Obama, we had the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial, and these Islamic jihadist organizations and these Muslim Brotherhood Hamas entities operating as a 501c3 organization. That means that they have a tax deductible status. Okay. That's what it means to be a 501c3 organization. That means that you are a nonprofit and people get a tax deduction when they support you. Well, why is this a problem? Because when you look at Islam and you look at the structure of Islam and the requirements of what it means to be a devout Muslim, you have to pay zakat. And zakat is a form of charity. And under Islamic tenets, under Islamic law, 1/8 of all zakat has to go towards funding the jihad. So you'll see that a lot of times these Islamic charities will say in their fundraising messaging, consider it your zakat by donating to us. Well, people will say, oh, well, how is that terror financing? Well, it's very simple. If 1/8 of all zakat is supposed to go towards funding jihad, well, obviously then zakat is going towards funding Islamic terrorism, which means that these Islamic charities in air quotes, because they're not charities, they are Islamic terrorist organizations, and they are inciting violence here in America. And these are groups that were referred for prosecution during the Holy Land Foundation terrorism trial, okay? Something that it's very important for people to remember. Then they're funding terrorism. And the fact that this hasn't been shut down when we have Donald Trump back in the White House and we have Republicans in control of the House and Senate is very alarming. Because if not now, then when? When are we going to get this done? Now is the most opportune time to designate the Muslim Brotherhood and to also have investigations into all of these Islamic charity organizations that are really just funding terrorism. So, very, very disturbing to me that this has not happened. I don't know. I just think that it's very, very concerning that it's not, these people are not just infiltrating our government under the Biden administration, but they're also infiltrating under the Trump administration. And I love Donald Trump, but this has to be said. I mean, I reported on this week. We can even pull up the tweets. We'll show the videos first and then I'll show you the tweets. But they announced several days ago, the White House Religious Freedom Commission, the Religious Freedom Committee, okay? Whatever they want to call it. And I'm going to show you the screenshots. You're going to see it's all verified. They actually appointed 3 jihadist Muslims to serve on the White House Religious Freedom Committee under Trump. So, no, this problem isn't unique to the Democrat Party, okay? There are people who are unfortunately bringing these jihadist Muslims, people who literally went to prison, okay? One of the individuals went to prison for trying to join an Islamic terrorist camp in Pakistan. And teaching people how to build explosives here in the United States of America. We'll get this pulled up. I mean, you think I'm making this shit up? I'll tell you right now, I'm not making this up. You can look and see the receipts yourself. It's out of control. I honestly can't believe that this is even happening, especially under a Trump administration. Do I think that Donald Trump is aware of it? No. I don't think that Donald Trump is aware of this. I really don't. I think that this is just another example of the vetting crisis in the Trump administration. But it needs to be said because, look, if these people are going around literally murdering innocent people in Washington, D.C., and our nation's capital, what message does it send if these same individuals who harbor hatred towards Jews, who promote Palestinian propaganda, Hamas propaganda, are now being welcomed into the White House? We need to have accountability within our own ranks. And so I would really like to know who appointed the jihadists to serve on the White House Religious Freedom Committee. So there you go. You can see the post here. Islamic jihadists who traveled to Pakistan to train in an Islamic terror camp and served 20-year prison sentence in the United States for jihadi terrorist activities has now been listed as a member of the White House Advisory Board of Lay Leaders, announced today on the official White House website. Again, I broke this story several days ago. So when I say today, this was, back several days ago when I was actually reporting on this. But that being said, the individuals, from my understanding, have not been removed from the Religious Advisory Committee, which is a massive problem. So, I said just when I thought the vetting crisis couldn't get any worse, a literal Muslim Brotherhood Hamas jihadist named Ismail Royer was found by the DOJ to have traveled to Pakistan to train in a terrorist camp and who was part of the Virginia jihadi network that trained Islamic terrorists to attack America and was investigated by the FBI is now, shockingly, on the White House Advisory Board of Lay Leaders that was announced just a few days ago. You can scroll down. This is all verifiable information. I put the DOJ referral there underneath the tweet as well so that people can see I'm not making this up. And we're going to show you that in a minute, but just let's go back up and continue reading because people need to understand the threat, the enemy within has infiltrated, not just the Democrat Party and, not just these radical leftist organizations like, Liberation and Socialism Group that this individual, this, what is his name? Elias Rodriguez guy, this murderer, who just shot and killed these two innocent people last night in Washington, D.C. in an Islamic terrorist attack. People who have those same views as Elias Rodriguez are now being welcomed into the White House. In 2003, Royer was indicted on terrorism-related charges, including a conspiracy to levy war against the United States and providing material support to al-Qaeda and LET, another terrorist organization. You can look it up. He pled guilty in 2004 to aiding and abetting the use of firearms and explosives, receiving a 20-year sentence and serving 13 years. Okay, that's all verifiable. You can see it yourself. Okay, you can click on the Justice Department's archive and you can see it all yourself. Okay, it says for immediate release, January 16th, 2004. Two defendants in Virginia jihad case plead guilty to weapons charges, will cooperate with ongoing investigation. Randall Royer, his name was Randall. He now goes by Ishmael. Okay. pled guilty. Okay, they entered their guilty pleas. Royer pled guilty to a 2-count criminal information, charging him with using and discharging a firearm during in relation to a crime of violence and with carrying explosives during the commission of a felony. He faced a total mandatory minimum sentence of 20 years in prison. He's a jihadist, okay? He went to jail for participating in terrorism. And now he is in the White House, on the White House Religious Freedom Commission, which is ironic given the fact that these jihadist Muslims don't really believe in religious freedom, right? So it gets worse, right? Just when you thought it doesn't get worse. I mean, this is pretty fucked up. We're going to keep on going, though. You can keep on scrolling down. In his plea agreement, Royer admitted, okay, are you following along? This is a real document, by the way, for those of you that are watching. And I'm sure your mouths are like your jaws are hitting the ground right now because you're like, oh my God, how does this happen? Again, how does it happen? That's what I would love to know. I don't understand how somebody who goes to prison, and again, it's going to get worse. You're going to have to read this document. I'm going to read it for you. In his plea agreement, Royer, the same Royer mentioned on the White House website, admitted to aiding and abetting co-defendants Masood Khan, Yongki Kwan, Mohammed Ataki, and Khwajan Mahmoud Hassan in gaining entry to a terrorist training camp in Pakistan operated by Lashkar-Taiba. You see that? Like, I don't understand how you can be charged with helping somebody gain access to a terrorist camp in Pakistan and then go work in the White House with Trump, okay? That doesn't really make any sense to me. All right, let's keep on going right there. Where they trained in the use of various weapons, you can follow along, including semi-automatic pistols. Royer also admitted to helping co-defendant Ibrahim Ahmed Al-Hamdi gain entry into Lakshir Al-Taiba camp, where Al-Hamdi received training in the use of a rocket-propelled grenade. Oh, my God. He literally helped somebody gain access into a terrorist camp so they could train in the use of rocket-propelled grenades in furtherance of a conspiracy to conduct military operations against India and the United States of America, not just India. You'll read the rest of the charges here, and you'll see for yourself. So Royer acknowledged that he committed his efforts to help other jihadists gain entry to the training camp following a meeting on September 16th, right after 9/11, at which an unindicted co-conspirator said that the terrorist attacks on September 11th would be used as an excuse to trigger a global war against Islam, and that the time had come for them to go abroad and join the Mujahideen. So this guy, in the aftermath of 9/11, when everybody was reeling from the worst Islamic terrorist attack on U.S. soil, instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to be a proud American, he was talking about ways that he could evade detection by law enforcement and join Mujahideen, it's Islamic terrorist groups. Okay, that's what it means. That's the word for jihad. Seeing that this guy is a bad guy. He's not somebody who you want in the White House with Donald Trump. Okay, let's scroll down. You can keep on going because it just gets even worse and worse and worse and worse. The pleas by Royer and Al-Hamdi follow guilty pleas in the case in August and September. Okay, so again, these were guilty pleas. They admitted to it. They admitted to what they did. They admitted to trying to go abroad to fight with terrorist organizations, and they admitted to their participation in Islamic Jihad. This is not a conspiracy. He didn't even try to dispute the charges. Okay, he literally admitted to it. Let's go to the chat. I want to see what people are saying in the comments. People said, wow, this is crazy. Oh, my word. Yeah. And this guy's now in the White House. Unbelievable. So, and by the way, you guys, we're live right now. We're on Rumble and we're on X. So please be sure that I'm going to do it right now, too. Please be sure that you repost the live link to the stream so that everybody can watch it. We got a lot of viewers, almost 40,000 viewers on X right now. A lot more. We have more on Rumble, too. So please be sure that you're clicking the follow button on Rumble so that you can subscribe to get notifications. Click the follow button and turn notifications on your phones so that they're enabled for Rumble so that you never miss an episode of Loomer Unleashed. It's great to be back to regular scheduled programming. I was out of town for the last week and a half. Had to travel for work, but also took a little bit of time to go see some family. But we're back to regular programming every Tuesday and Thursday. For those of you who may be new tonight, joining me every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, I have my show here on X and Rumble. So please be sure that you set notifications because you're not going to hear this anywhere else. I mean, where else are you going to hear this news and see this news? Nobody else is talking about the jihadis that just got welcomed into the White House, okay? Nobody else. This is the only place you're going to hear it and see it. Let's go back to the chat so you can see what people are saying. Wow. Loomer said a basic Google search would have exposed this. Yeah, it's not like I'm saying, oh, you know, I'm a great researcher. I mean, I'm saying that. Yeah, I am a great researcher. I mean, I am, let's be honest. But you don't have to be like an exceptional researcher to see this stuff. I mean, I looked at it and I looked at the names. And when I saw that they announced on X, oh, we have a new religious advisory committee. And, you know, this was quietly announced the day that President Trump returned from his trip to the Middle East, or from the Middle East, rather. And I was like, oh, God, I bet you there's Muslims on the list, right? That's what I thought. I said, I bet you there's a bunch of Muslims on the list. Let me go check and see. Because the Trump campaign had issues with, you know, some of the individuals who they brought into the campaign. They had ties to terrorist organizations. And so they had to kind of like gently tell these people, no, I'm sorry, we can't be seen on camera with you. And this was widely publicized during the time of the inauguration. You'll recall a pro-Hezbollah imam was actually set, if you could believe it or not, to deliver the invocation at President Trump's inauguration. And it wasn't until I, you know, privately reminded the Trump administration and alerted them to the fact that this guy was pro-Hezbollah. I'm the one that dug that up. And you know, it ended up getting out there anyway. But, you know, I said, hey, look, if I figure this out, it's only a matter of time before somebody else figures this out. You really shouldn't have this guy speak. And then they saw my report and they said, wow, it's crazy. How'd that happen? And that's my question. Exactly. How did this happen? Who is doing the vetting? Because this isn't the first instance that a jihadist has slipped through. Okay. This has happened multiple times now. First time. Okay. Whatever. It's like, oops, we didn't know. You move on. You try to do better. But this has happened multiple times now. And I'm not blaming Donald Trump. I don't think that Donald Trump has even, you know, engaged in conversations with these individuals. Somebody else has been given the task of putting together these religious commissions. And the reality is that there's no vetting taking place because Ishmael Royer isn't even the only jihadi who's on this list. There's 3 jihadis. You can go look at the list yourself. Let's go back to my tweets and I'll show you the others. It's totally crazy. And scroll down. Anyway, you know, if you want to read how crazy this guy is, go ahead and read it. But, you know, everything that I just told you, you can see. But let's click on it so people can see, right? His name is there. I'm not making this up. It's not a conspiracy theory. And then people say, oh, you know, why are you talking about this? Why are you blowing this up? You sound so bitter. This has nothing to do with being bitter. This has nothing to do with, you know, me not working in the White House. This is to protect Donald Trump. This is a national security issue. You have an Islamic jihadist who went to jail for participating in Islamic jihad and traveling overseas to terrorist camps abroad in the Middle East. And this guy's in the White House now. So again, I don't really care if people want to say I'm bitter. They say I'm jealous. This is about national security. This is about protecting President Trump, protecting our country, and making sure that there's not an Islamic jihadist infiltration within the executive branch in our government. It's horrible. All these institutions in our government have been totally co-opted and taken over by Muslims. I mean, look, just today, after the attack last night, this horrible attack, Ilhan Omar was asked because all the members of Congress stayed behind and they voted on the big, beautiful bill. They didn't get out till like 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So they vote on the bill. They're leaving the Capitol this morning and reporters are out there talking to them and they say, Congresswoman Omar, what do you think about the terrorist attack last night? Because of course she's showed up to a lot of these Palestinian rallies where they chant free Gaza and, you know, free Palestine. And the Congresswoman herself has refused to condemn Hamas. She literally refused to condemn the shooting last night. In fact, we have the video. Why don't we just go ahead and play the video? Because it's better for people to just see this video themselves. She literally refused when I believe it was Fox News that asked her this morning. They asked her. By the way, Fox never used to do this. until Loomer Unleashed made it very popular. Oh, the only time now that you see reporters getting in the faces of these politicians and asking them questions while they're getting to their car is because Loomer Unleashed really pioneered this. Nobody else was doing this before us, by the way. Nobody else in political media was loomering people or confronting them on the right before I created loomering several years ago. So I'm really happy that reporters in the mainstream media are now doing this, because 10 years ago, they used to say that it was uncouth or it was unprofessional, or that, you know, it was an ambush to walk up to a member of Congress as they were getting into their car. But I'm really the person who pioneered this in conservative media. So I digress. So let's go ahead and play the clip.
Congresswoman Omar,
Can I get your reaction to the shooting that happened in D.C. last night?
I'm going to go for now.
I'm going to go for now. Mark couldn't even say condolences for the family.
Totally crazy. The fact that a Muslim Somali-born woman is serving in the United States Congress, and she won't even condemn. She could have said, oh, you know, it was so awful. I'm so sorry. It's terrible. I condemn the violence. Yeah. Get in your car. Bye. But no, she wouldn't even say that. She said, oh, I got to go for now. And then it seems like she was forced to release a statement today because of all the backlash that she received. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about the death of these two people. She didn't even mention that it was a terrorist attack. You're never going to see her call it Islamic terrorism, even though it was. Is an act of Islamic terrorism. And I replied to her tweet. I don't know if we have that tweet pulled up. We can get that pulled up. But again, this is very serious. You guys, we have jihadists in Congress. We have jihadists in the White House. We have jihadists in the Democrat Party. We have jihadists getting cozy with Republicans because all these Republicans are like, oh, wow, you know, a Muslim. Wow, this Muslim. And it's not all Muslims, obviously. There's a lot of really great Muslims who are patriots. And I met a lot of them when I ran for Congress. But the reality is that they can't say these things in the countries they're from, or else they will be killed. And so I met Muslims who would condemn this stuff and Muslims who would condemn terrorism. But they're few and far between. You know, I had a lot of lovely Muslim supporters when I ran for Congress. I had Muslims for Laura Loomer coalition. But the majority of Muslims, right, the 2 billion Muslims on the planet, you're not seeing majority of them condemn this Islamic terrorism. You're not seeing majority of them say, you know what, we need to have reformation. You're not seeing advancement like you see in the United Arab Emirates, where they say, if you engage in terrorism, we're going to come after you. And they publicly shame and they publicly name the Muslim Brotherhood officials, okay? I would say that UAE is doing a good job as it relates to calling this out, okay? And those people are Muslim, right? But they are putting an effort to call out terrorism, in my opinion. We can have a conversation about the ideology of Islam another time. But in terms of actually condemning these attacks, you don't really see a lot of Muslims doing it. So, you know, I think it's a major national security threat. We have videos, countless videos over and over again of Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib both refusing to condemn not just Hamas, but also expressing anger about UNRWA being defunded, even though we know that UNRWA was accused of having several of their staffers participate in the October 7th Islamic terrorist attack in Israel. And it's very, very disturbing that members of Congress and people now who are going to be surrounding the president on his religious advisory committee support Hamas and support the Muslim Brotherhood and support these individuals that literally just point blank assassinated these innocent young people, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky. So Why don't we just go ahead and play some of these clips of Ilhan Omar from over the last few months, because Loomer Unleashed has caught up with her multiple times. And, we've asked her multiple times to condemn the Hamas flag being flown, and she just refuses to do it.
Will you condemn the Hamas flag that was flown outside the U.S. Congress last Saturday during Free Palestine protests?
I condemn the smug that's on your face.
So you don't want to condemn the Hamas flag?
Condemn the smug face.
All right, thank you. Congresswoman, how do you feel about the Trump administration's decision today to defund UNRWA, an organization that supports Hamas and whose members participated in the October 7th attacks? We know you support Hamas, so we'd love to hear your opinion. Would you like to answer, Congresswoman? Congresswoman, will you condemn the Hamas flag being flown outside the White House last week? I sure you'd like to comment quick. Will you condemn the Hamas flag being flown outside the White House? Of course, will you condemn the Hamas flag at the White House? I answer your question if you answer mine.
I think it's a very dangerous job.
Condemning the Hamas flag outside the White House?
Right now, you need to make sure you have health coverage.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
So again, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar both refuse to condemn this. We're not making this up. This isn't just, some random radical who showed up. It's not a mentally ill person. This is a pervasive ideology that is embraced by actual members of the United States Congress who show up and they actually participate in some of these rallies that people like Elias Rodriguez engage in themselves. And so we need to call it out. And I don't think that it's right for people to say things like, oh, well, how is this going to damage the optics of, the Palestinian movement? And I think we actually have a clip about that. I think there was a CNN clip that aired earlier today. It was ridiculous, where they're talking about whether or not this is actually going to impact the optics of the Palestinian movement. And, it's kind of crazy. It's like, why are we talking about this? Like, these people have always been this way. What do you mean if it's going to impact the optics? You literally have these people going around on a daily basis saying these things, and somebody just decided to pull out a gun and open fire. This has been happening every single day, but now it's turned lethal. And you have members of Congress that refuse to condemn it when they're asked about it because they're Muslim. So it just goes to show you how they're more concerned. Oh, did we show our hand? Oh, are people now going to realize that we actually are a violent movement, that we actually aren't the religion of peace, that we actually promote violence and we actually really don't care about ending a war? It's really, really disturbing. And the only way this is ever going to stop is if these groups are designated, and they have to be designated. We need to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization in this country, to shut down the militant wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the Palestinian movement, which is operating here in every single major American city, on every single major college campus, at the behest of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is funded by who? Yeah, Qatar, Turkey. So we definitely need to shut it down. Let's go ahead and play this clip, and then we'll get back to this coverage. But I want to show you this clip just so that you can see what I'm talking about. CNN. And oh, how do we repair the image of the Palestinians? Oh, is it going to make people think that these people are violent? Of course they're violent. I mean, have you ever read the Quran? Honestly, can we have an honest conversation about Islam in this country? Let's take a look at how pathetic these people are. They should be talking about the innocent young people who were murdered, but instead they're talking about the optics of this fucked up Palestinian movement that, quite frankly, in my opinion, enemies of our country are the people who support the Palestinian movement. And I don't care if, a lot of these conservatives take offense to that, because now, a lot of conservative influencers, as was just exposed, are on the take from Qatar. Tucker Carlson took over $180,000 apparently from this report that was released. And the reality is, a lot of the Republicans that you watch on TV are getting paid to say these things. They don't actually really believe that the Palestinians are innocent people. Nobody wants war. I want this war to end. I want the war between Israel and Hamas to end. I would love for it to end. I don't like bloodshed, but let's stop lying and saying that people who are inherently violent are peaceful. Okay. Check the bank accounts of these people who are literally getting paid by Muslim countries to spew this garbage rhetoric. They don't actually believe in the things that they're saying to you. And unfortunately now, what used to be a fringe movement, the BDS movement, the Palestinian movement, something that was completely fringe and really, honestly, it was for the has-beens in the Democrat Party and the progressive left who engaged in this radical Islamic activity. Okay, you were considered to be very taboo if you did that. It's now becoming mainstream. It really is becoming mainstream. And people say, oh, well, it has to do with America First policy. It has nothing to do with America First policy. This is about genocidal hatred against Jews and Christians. And I say Christians because, well, everybody's saying that the couple that was killed is Jewish. They were Messianic Jews. Okay. You could say they're Jews. You could say they're Christians. Those are Jews who believe in Jesus. Okay. So really they're Christian. They were Christian Zionists is what they were, and they were slaughtered. So if you think that this is something that only pertains to Jews or, only pertains to people who support Israel, you need a brain check. You need a check in reality. You need to wake up, because these people just point blank assassinated this Elias Rodriguez. And now there's reports saying that he may not have acted alone, that there's people that may have actually assisted him. I saw a report today about that. What are they going to do next? Go into evangelical churches and start spraying bullets? Are they going to start going into synagogues and shouting free Gaza and free Palestine and Intifada now? So if you're a Christian and you're watching this, this is about you too. This isn't just about the Jews. What starts with the Jews doesn't end with the Jews. And unfortunately, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky learned the hard way. Let's go ahead and play this clip.
As you go forward, with what you have seen, can you give us any sense, because you said you looked the shooter in the eyes, can you give us any sense of what you saw in him as he was sort of getting help and people were tending to him as if he too was a victim of seeing this?
Yeah, to be clear, I heard about that part because we were in a secure room when he initially walked in. I just saw him screaming and then being handcuffed. But what I saw in his eyes, I went to Columbia for grad school, and I saw the same thing in his eyes as I saw in the eyes of all the protesters at Columbia. Nothing different between him and them.
But they did not create this horrific shooting. They did not, they didn't shoot.
They gave permission. They gave the permission. And they have called for this. They have called for Intifada revolution, which is the same thing he yelled last night.
Do you worry that there will be a conflation, though, of the two, those people who are speaking their mind, who really care about what is happening in Gaza, and those people who are like this person who did this horrific shooting, who intend to do harm?
a conflation. I mean, they are calling for intifada. At Columbia University, they call for intifada constantly. They're not quietly, they're loud. They're loud. You can hear it. They make recordings of themselves. So what's the difference?
Are you afraid?
Yes.
What will
We're
you do
all
about
afraid.
that?
Everyone should be afraid.
What are you doing to try to make yourself feel safer?
Well, okay, just go on and live your life. I'm a New Yorker. I remember 9/11. You can't let them make you be afraid. You have to go on. You have to live your life, and hopefully your government does things to protect you. Last night, our government failed us.
Jonathan Epstein, I know that they are going forward with this. There is expected to be charges in this case. We will see what happens, but I know you'll be watching, and we'll talk to you again as this goes forward. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry that you had to witness what you did. Kate?
Why is she asking about the optics of how it's just so twisted to me? Oh, well, how do you think this is going to make people think about the movement? Who gives a shit? Who cares about what people think about the Palestinian movement? These people should be deported. They should not be allowed to operate in our country. It has nothing to do with free speech, by the way. This is not free speech. This is incitement to violence. You want to criticize Israel? Fine. Criticize Israel. That's free speech. But when you start inciting violence and showing up to events and assassinating people and using free Gaza and also free Palestine as an assassination battle cry, that's not free speech. That's incitement to violence. And these people should be shut down, and their networks should be surveilled by our intelligence agencies, and they should be jailed, in my opinion. Not because they're critical of Israel, but because they are literally engaged in terrorist acts. That is a terrorist act to point blank assassinate somebody. And he probably thought, you know, he was getting such a victory. And it turns out these people are Messianic Jews, right? So they're like Christians at the end of the day, which is being reported in the media. It doesn't matter whether they're a Christian or a Jew, right? But this guy clearly hated Jews. I mean, it literally said on his social media, oh, exterminate all Zionists. And yeah, they appear to be Zionist individuals, right? So I guess he got what he wanted. But again, it's not a movement that just affects the Jewish community or the Israeli community. This is going to affect people of all backgrounds. It's a national security threat, and it's going to get Christians killed too. So I think that a lot of these, you know, so-called Christian nationalists that go around talking about, you know, how they hate Israel and they hate Zionism should be a little more concerned about this. They really should. They should be concerned about this because you can't rationalize an irrational mind. And clearly these people like Elias Rodriguez are very irrational. If you attend an event where Israeli diplomats are speaking, I guess you're now a target for assassination, according to these Palestinians. Who are they to know that whether or not you're Israeli or you're American or you're Jewish or you're Christian or you're Hindu? How do they know? They don't. They're just indiscriminately opening fire to kill people who they think are Jewish. I want to get people's comments and thoughts about this in the chat. If you have any comments or thoughts about this, let me know what you think. It's terrorism. It's terrorism, plain and simple. Let's see. Somebody said W. Loomer. So, yeah, I mean, look, this becomes a very politicized issue because people say, oh, you know, it's just the plight of the Jews. It's not just a Jewish issue, okay? Christians are going to be slaughtered too. Christians are already getting slaughtered. Christians are already getting targeted. And I just want to know when all of these so-called, you know, Christian conservative influencers who they say they hate Israel so much, they say they hate Jews or they hate Zionists, whatever they want to say, when are they going to call out the fact that these people indiscriminately murder? And their basis for committing murder is completely irrational, and they are actually getting Christians killed too. I would like to see an honest conversation about this because a lot of the comments that I've seen online, I mean, I think we have some of these social media posts. We can even pull them up. They're very disturbing. If you go to Yaron Lashinsky's X account, and he had an X account, he was a Trump supporter. He was a big supporter of President Trump. He took photos of himself at the inauguration. He was a supporter of the Abraham Accords. If you read the comments underneath his most recent post, the guy that was shot and killed last night, It's horrible. You have all these Palestinian accounts saying, oh, target eliminated. And you can see it's not just a one-off incident where you have Elias Rodriguez. Let's go ahead and open these tweets. These are tweets posted by Elias Rodriguez. This is his alleged Twitter account where he said, Happy New Year on 1/1/2024. Death to Israel. Okay. And next, scroll over. Death to America, right? With 3 Ks indicating that it's the KKK. So they're anti-American, they're anti-Israel, they're anti-Jewish, they're anti-Christian. They're against everybody who's not a communist and who's also not a Muslim. Also, Elias Rodriguez emails allegedly associated with his eBay account that sells Muslim prayer rugs with images of the 9/11 terrorist attack. So he sells Afghan war rugs. He supported Islamic terrorism, and he actually sold rugs glorifying the Islamic terrorist attack. That these were Muslim prayer rugs. The Muslims could pray on these prayer rugs, celebrating the Islamic terrorist attacks. Handmade in camps in Afghanistan and Pakistan. I mean, it's pretty disgusting behavior, honestly. And people say, oh, he's Latino. He's not a Muslim. Does it really matter at the end of the day? He's joining forces with these radical Muslims, with these jihadist Muslims who are influencing him. He might as well be a Muslim at the end of the day if he is indeed selling Afghan war rugs, celebrating the 9/11 terrorist attack so that Muslims could pray to the image of Muslims blowing up our Twin Towers in New York City. You're not going to see this on the mainstream media. I doubt you've seen this anywhere today. But it's real. It's real. Go to the chat, see if anybody has any comments. Uh, 69 Burr said, this is terrorism. They will target Jews, Christians, Americans, or any non-Muslims. Laura is absolutely correct. Absolutely. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that, of course, is Grassy. Sip on the power of nature with Grassy, the organic wellness water that does more than just hydrate. This small business was founded on a mission to keep jobs here at home in America, especially in rural communities. Grassy is committed to investing in American manufacturing instead of sending production overseas. Made and sourced in the United States, each bottle of Grassy is packed with detoxifying barley grass juice powder plus 100% of your daily vitamin C, D, and zinc, giving you and your body the clean energy and immune boost that you need. It's USDA certified, organic, plant-based, vegan, and it's also low in sugar, making it perfect for athletes, families, and anyone who wants to stay healthy on the go. Wellness Magazine even said that Grassy is not just a beverage, but a revolution in a bottle. So head on over to Grassy.com and use code LAURA20 to save 20% off on your entire purchase all month long. When you sip on Grassy, you're not just nourishing yourself, you're helping support American workers and local communities across our country. And if there's one thing that you know about me, it's that I will always stand with American workers and American businesses. You can go onto their website, Grassy.com, use code LAURA20. To get 20% off your order, all types of flavors. I drink this. I like it. I used to get vitamin infusions, and I substantially cut back on my vitamin infusions because, well, you know, why would I go spend hundreds of dollars to go get IVs, you know, like vitamin IVs, when I could just drink Grassy? Vitamin C, D, and zinc, immune boosters, organic barley water, cucumber, lime, lemongrass, ginger, citrus mint. Definitely check it out. Again, Grassy.com, code Laura20 for 20% off. Non-GMO, low calorie, lightly sweetened, vegan friendly, great for kids, great for adults, diabetic friendly. If you're diabetic, you can drink this. Has all types of amino acids too. So definitely check it out. And we thank Grassi for sponsoring Loomer Unleashed. Alrighty. You know, I showed you Elias Rodriguez, his posts, the email that's allegedly associated with him that is selling these Islamic prayer rugs. The posts calling America, America with 3 Ks, like the KKK, saying death to Israel, saying death to America. And, you know, he's not alone. There are a lot of leftists at these protests who we have encountered who share these same sentiments. And in fact, you know, Loomer Unleashed has been documenting a lot of these Luigi Mangione types who get dressed up and they support Luigi Mangione and they go across the country and they protest in our nation's capital. And who are they protesting with? Oh, yeah, they're protesting with the pro-Hamas jihadis at these pro-Hamas Palestinian rallies. So we actually have a lot of clips. And again, we've been documenting this. I have this document here that has, you know, a compilation. We showed you the screenshot earlier of all of the different protests and links to the footage that we have been covering, documenting this Red-Green Alliance, the Red-Green Axis, this Islamo-Marxist alliance. And I want to go ahead and play some of these clips in case you haven't seen them or, you know, maybe you're new to Loomer Unleashed. I'm just going to play, it's probably about 10 or 15 minutes of just nonstop clips because you need to see these individuals yourself to see what has been happening in our country, to see, you know, that the same keffiyeh that this guy's wearing, the guy that walked into this museum and shot and killed 2 people last night. Horrific details. We saw today that the young woman who was shot and killed, she actually tried crawling away. She was set to get engaged in Jerusalem this week. Very sad. When he saw her crawling away, he just continued shooting her so that she would die and couldn't move. So really horrible and, you know, really horrific attack by Elias Rodriguez, who was wearing a keffiyeh. And you're going to see that, you know, you don't just have to be a Muslim, a hijabi wearing Muslim or a Muslim individual from, you know, the Middle East to carry out an act of Islamic terrorism. These radicals are wearing the keffiyeh, the same rag that Elias Rodriguez wore. You saw it on the floor in the video when he was apprehended by security and police. And I'm about to show you several video clips of radical leftist communist individuals wearing this keffiyeh, that Islamic rag, hanging out with Luigi Mangione cosplayers and at these you know, jihadist rallies. To note, this is happening in our nation's capital. So Elias Rodriguez isn't the only one. There are multiple people like Elias Rodriguez out there in the world who are, you know, in our nation's capital. All these videos that we're about to show you are from Washington, D.C. Okay, so there's not just one Elias Rodriguez out there in Washington, D.C. wearing a keffiyeh and dressing up like Luigi Mangione and opening fire. There's going to be more Elias Rodriguez's. Let's go ahead and play the clip.
What's the Gen Z strike?
The long march of returning to their homes in Gaza, to the north of Gaza. It shows that steadfastness has remained and that the world, 15 months later, is different.
You guys are on the street, so...
Can you not take pictures here, please?
Oh, why? I don't know. Can you stop touching me? Alright. Senator Schumer, why are you promoting an insurrection? Senate Democrats have literally spent the last 4 years accusing President Trump and his supporters of being insurrectionists, and you're rallying people up outside the White House.
No fascist USA. No Trump. No KKK. No fascist USA.
Oh, may I ask, is Luigi like is he like a good role model for you? Like,
you know, he's calling attention to things that we need to be paying more attention to, which is the fact that people are dying because of a lack of health insurance.
who's your favorite politician?
My favorite politician? Who's my favorite politician? I like Marx. Marx is great.
What about like any in Congress right now?
Oh my goodness. Congress is compromised, that's for sure.
Is this your sign? I like it. Oh.
Palestinians here in America by ICE and is anti-genocide. My name is NukulyusTV and I'm a political prisoner. I am Netanyahu, you can hide. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide. Are you a big fan of Luigi? What's your sign say? Are you a big fan of Luigi? Oh, free Luigi. You want a free Luigi?
So, I think we should free our political prisoners. I also think that we are in a really fraught time in history, so I want my grandkids to look at our situation and at least have a little bit of hope that we can make light of something so shitty.
Wait, Luigi's a political prisoner, in your opinion?
Not Lucullus is a political prisoner. I'm just making jokes over here. If you make an assumption from what I've just said, maybe you got the joke.
I'm just videotaping. Well, I don't want your friends with Luigi's hat to be shown. Well, I got it.
You want to take your phone? My phone. Yeah, take my phone.
That clip, by the way, all those clips are from the last 3 months, right? Since President Trump has been president. And I say that because, you know, these people are getting more extreme. These are not old clips. These are clips from the last several months in our country, all of them in Washington, D.C., by the way. And the clip you just saw, the last clip of the woman in the hijab getting escorted into the elevator by police, was during Marco Rubio's hearing in front of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I believe, 2 days ago or yesterday. And she was actually getting arrested for disrupting it in full Islamic garb. So again, Trump supporters were actually shot inside the United States Capitol, if you recall, on January 6th. So I think it's really interesting how these Islamic jihadists, these radical Muslims, are not getting shot inside the United States Capitol. I'm not advocating for them to get shot, but why are they going to shoot Trump supporters, but they're not going to shoot the jihadists who are calling for an intifada and a revolution, an Islamic revolution in America? It just goes to show you the bias. Total bias, in my opinion. I mean, they shot and killed Ashley Babbitt. How come they're not opening fire on this jihadi woman in a hijab? They just had to settle. The federal government just had to settle with Ashley Babbitt's family for $5 million. Just wondering, they shot Ashley Babbitt. They had a black police officer who shot and killed a white Air Force veteran. How come they're not shooting the jihadi woman? How come? It's interesting, isn't it? How Trump supporters are considered terrorists and, Trump supporters get shot on January 6th, but actual jihadis are allowed to go inside the United States Capitol and nobody shoots them. That's not an insurrection? How is Ashley Babbitt going inside the Capitol an insurrection, but that jihadi woman dressed in a hijab and chanting Islamic jihadist chants not a threat? Again, not saying she should be shot, but it is very interesting when you think about the fact that Ashley Babbitt was literally shot point blank for walking peacefully inside the United States Capitol, but a radical Muslim woman is able to storm a hearing and she's not shot. Really egregious double standard in our country. Let's see. Rocco D2 said, Laura probably completely disagrees with my personal politics as a white man in the USA, but I enjoy the debate and the discussion. I think that there really is just such a double standard in our country. But again, all those clips prove it. It's not it's an insurrection when Trump supporters go to the Capitol on January 6th. And, you have to shoot Trump supporters inside the Capitol on January 6th. But it's not an insurrection when a bunch of Muslims are waving Islamic terrorist flags for Hamas and Hezbollah outside of the White House and chanting death to America and death to Israel. And when they're literally storming the United States Capitol. And again, Republicans are in control right now. So if we're going to allow for the double standard to proliferate and, we're not going to do anything to hold these people accountable and make the Democrats play by their own rules, if not now, then when? When are these people ever going to be held accountable for their violent activities and their support of terrorism on U.S. soil inside the United States Capitol? If not now under the Trump administration, then when? When? Because, the Democrats are not going to hold them accountable. When are they going to be held accountable for what they're doing? Because I'm not seeing any accountability. Not seeing any accountability whatsoever. We are live right now, you guys, so please be sure that you repost the live link on X and Rumble, rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Be sure that you're following me on X. And be sure that you're following me on Rumble, rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Follow me on X at Laura Loomer and also on X at Loomer Unleashed. Again, one last time, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. Be sure that you head on over to their website, kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. Fill out the contact form, call them. They have representatives available every day of the week to take your calls, to speak with you about how you can diversify your wealth and diversify your portfolio, protect your financial future by investing in precious metals. Call Dr. Kirk today, 720-605-3900. Again, 720-605-3900. KEPM.com/Loomer. Let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. And by the way, if you've used Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, which I know a lot of you have, let me know in the comments how your service has been thus far. I know a lot of you have been very happy, very satisfied, but definitely love giving the sponsors feedback. So if you are using the products advertised here from the sponsors of Loomer Unleashed, let me know, because I'd really like to know how it's going for you. Oh boy, it's just so crazy. I hope that this is dealt with, because honestly, I feel that the Democrats are really going to use more political violence and threats of assassination to get what they want come 2026. It's really going to get worse, in my opinion. I think we're going to see more assassinations personally in America. I really do. I think that we're going to see more violence. I think we're going to start to see more people get stabbed or, people get shot at point blank by these jihadist radicals who feel emboldened to just go into our nation's capital and open fire on people who support Israel, people who support America. And these people who are doing the killing, they're not just anti-Israel, they're anti-American. I showed you the guy's social media post where he spelled America with 3 Ks, okay? And that's what they say. No fascist USA, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA, free Palestine, right? Those are their chants. That's what they say every time you go. No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA, free Gaza, free. That's what they do every time you go. It's like they're like drones. And we have hours of video footage of this, you know? We have hours of video footage of these communists and these Muslims chanting like, you know, like puppets. You know, they walk in a line. It's like, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA. You think that these people are completely hypnotized with their ridiculous Soros chants and their jihadi chants. And they're all funded by the Muslim Brotherhood. And, you know, all that money's coming from Qatar. All that money is coming from Turkey. What are we doing about this? Why are these people not in jail? Why are these people not in jail for inciting and aiding and abetting terrorism? That's not free speech. Aiding and abetting terrorism, waving Hamas flags outside of the White House is not free speech. When are we going to see some real accountability from the DOJ with this terrorist activity in the streets of America? Somebody said Loomer can chant. Yeah, I can chant. I mean, when you go to enough of these protests, it gets drilled into your mind. You know all of their chants. So I just personally think Israel should just do whatever it takes, personally. I just don't want to hear about Gaza anymore. I'm just going to say it. I don't want to hear about Gaza anymore. I'm sick and tired of hearing about, you know, innocent people who are not innocent. And I'm sick and tired of hearing these stories about how there's no more food and there's no more water. They're literally on TikTok making TikTok videos, and some of the people are severely overweight. How are you not eating food if you are 300 pounds overweight on TikTok from Gaza? If you don't have electricity, how are you on the internet? Do people think rationally? I mean, honestly, it is so crazy how people make excuses over and over and over again. I mean, do they not understand how ridiculous this is and how illogical it is? So no, I don't care about Gaza. No, I don't care. I care about ending the war. I would like to see an end to the war, but that's going to require the release of the hostages. I don't want to see more bloodshed, but no, I don't care about the plight of the people in Gaza, to be totally honest. I really don't. And some people will say, oh, you're a horrible person for saying that. I don't care, because you know what? When Israel kills terrorists, they're preventing those terrorists from coming to our country. And so it actually is America First policy to support Israel. It is. I'm not Israel first. I'm America first. But it actually is America First policy to support Israel's eradication of Islamic terrorists, because Israel's the barrier between all of those hostile Muslim nations and our country and our border. And so if Israel doesn't take out these Islamic terrorists in Hamas and Hezbollah and these Iranian proxies, then guess where they're going to come? They're going to come in through South America, and then they're going to cross into our border, and they're going to come into our country, and they're going to kill innocent American citizens. So yes, I would rather Israel have the permission from the world, have the permission from the United States of America to just go in and do whatever they need to do to prevent more terrorists from coming to our country. And no one wants to talk about it from that perspective, because nobody wants to give Israel credit for eradicating and neutralizing many terrorists who would otherwise be coming to our country to kill us. I'm not advocating for troops on the ground. I'm saying let Israel do what Israel needs to do. I'm not saying the USA needs to, provide additional support or provide military support for this mission to happen. I'm saying allow them to do what they need to do. Who cares, honestly, at the end of the day? Do you want your country to be infiltrated by Islamic terrorists? I don't. So no, I don't care if Israel decides to go into Gaza and eradicate more terrorists. I really don't. I think it's a service to the world. That's how I personally view it, as somebody who understands how these Islamic terrorist networks rise up and how these terrorist cells embed themselves in our country and where a lot of these people came from. They came from the Middle East. These people are Muslim Brotherhood funded operatives. The Palestinian movement, again, is the militant wing of the Muslim Brotherhood. So why would I care about the Palestinian movement getting shut down here in America? Why would I care about Israel leveling Gaza? Why? Why would I care? I don't care. Nobody should care. So thank you, Robbie SRH, for the really lovely super chat. And again, it's sad that people are dying. Obviously, it's sad when children die. I'm not saying it's not sad. I'm just saying that, people are going to die in a war. And there was no war before Hamas decided to open fire and slaughter thousands of people on October 7th. Okay, that's just a fact. So Israel has a right to protect itself. And honestly, we need to protect ourselves too. We need to protect ourselves from these Iranian proxies who openly tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Is everybody forgetting that? Is everybody forgetting that the Iranians who are propping up Hamas and Hezbollah literally tried to assassinate Trump? Do we want to have more Iranians here in America? The DOJ has already tried Iranians who came in through our country illegally, and now they're in our country being charged by the DOJ for trying to assassinate Donald Trump. Look it up. Okay, who do you think is trying to kill those terrorists? It's Israel. It's Israel. So you know what? I think that Israel is actually doing a really big service to the United States of America and our national security by eradicating these terrorists before they come to our country. And that is America First policy. I don't care what people say. It is. I'm not calling for more aid. I'm not calling for boots on the ground. I'm not calling for military intervention. I'm saying let Israel do what Israel needs to do without condemning Israel or trying to pressure Israel into not killing more terrorists. Let them do it. Somebody said, I'm Jewish and I'm sick of all this pro-Israel propaganda. This isn't pro-Israel propaganda. This is pro-America content. Okay. This is pro-America content. We're not talking about Israel. Those videos I showed you were not from Israel. Those videos are from our nation's capital 3 months ago, 2 months ago, 2 days ago. That's happening here in the United States of America, not Israel. I'm not talking about Israel. I'm talking about the threat of Palestinian jihadist Muslims who are infiltrating the United States Capitol and opening fire on U.S. citizens and trying to assassinate Donald Trump and assassinate people in our own country simply because they don't support the Islamic movement in Gaza. Hey, those videos are from our own country. This is not Israeli propaganda. All of those Hamas flags, that's not Gaza. That's not Iran. That's not Qatar. That's not Turkey. That's 500 feet away from the White House where President Trump lives. Those videos that I played for you tonight. Any other comments, you guys? Released a lot of reports about the violent activity at these protests and the open borders rhetoric as well that is being spewed. You can read these articles on Loomer.com. We have a lot of these articles available. Exclusive reports. It's not news aggregation. These are exclusive reports that you can review, documenting things about the political violence and also documenting the funding sources of some of these groups. Also documenting the vetting crisis here. We actually have a new stinger we designed. I wasn't joking when I told you guys that the vetting crisis was going to become an official part of Loomer Unleash. It's now an official segment. We actually have a new stinger. I'm pretty proud of it, actually. We're going to go ahead and get it loaded momentarily, but I decided to have a stinger made because I talk about the vetting crisis so much that I said, you know what? We need to have our own graphic for the White House vetting crisis. So let's go ahead and play this clip. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know in the comments. Looks good. My producer Cannon made that for me. I think he did a good job. If you guys like it, let me know in the comments. But now we have, and it's official. I wasn't joking when I said that we were making an official White House vetting crisis segment here at Loomer Unleashed. So now we have our own little fancy animated graphic. Looks amazing. Got the White House in the background, got Trump in the background. And there are several current White House vetting crisis stories on Loomer.com. Be sure you check them out about the Surgeon General, about an individual by the name of Admiral Roberts over at the DOD. Check my X account for more vetting crisis stories about State Department officials who are trying to turn over energy assets in Venezuela to the CCP in China. There's definitely a sinister rot going on in the State Department. I just posted about it earlier tonight, actually. You can scroll down and you can see that report. But you'll see yourself that a lot of these individuals got into the State Department, got into the White House, even though they have anti-Trump sentiments. Keep on scrolling down. It's further down. Right there. Scroll up a little bit. Mauricio Claver Carone, the State Department Special Envoy for Latin America, conspired with congressional GOP Cubans to block the extension for Chevron's license due to their own confirmation bias as Hispanic individuals who place their own emotions regarding Maduro over the interests of the United States and America First energy policy. So you may have seen over the last week and a half, I wrote a pretty viral op-ed. It's been seen millions of times now about the fact that the oil licenses for Chevron and other American oil companies in Venezuela, which, you know, has the world's largest oil reserves, in case people don't know, it's in Venezuela. And in addition to the oil reserves, you know, they also have very large underdeveloped mineral deposits, gold as well, all types of resources in Venezuela. And China is now going to take over Chevron's assets. It's a multi-billion-dollar U.S. energy company, okay? You know, one of the leading energy companies in the world. And now the CCP is going to be able to gain access to Chevron's assets in Venezuela because the oil licenses are set to expire by May 27th. And people at the State Department, like Mauricio Claver Carone, conspired with the three congressional Cubans. You have Diaz Balart. You also have Carlos Jimenez and Maria Salazar, who never seems to be speaking English anytime she communicates with her constituents. And they decided to put their own personal views of Maduro over the interests of our own country. So I would encourage you all to read the op-ed on my my website, Loomer.com. It's pretty extensive and it's pretty detail oriented so that you can understand how Venezuela is about to take over. You can go to read more. Our energy assets in China is going to take over our energy assets in Venezuela, the CCP. And this is really bad because about 15,000 American jobs are now going to be lost. Let's scroll down. I think it's a little further down and read the op-ed. There we go. And scroll up. Chevron's Venezuela exit hands China a strategic victory and threatens U.S. energy security. So I broke the story earlier last night about how the congressional Cubans literally extorted President Trump, and they essentially said that if President Trump didn't cancel the Chevron licenses, they were not going to vote for the big, beautiful bill, which passed in the House today. So that's extortion at the end of the day. And I think that it's extremely hypocritical, especially for Maria Salazar, who says, oh, you know, we don't engage with Maduro. It's like, okay, Maria, you're literally on video interviewing Maduro, right? We have the video clip here too. I mean, it's an hour long, but you can go and watch it yourself. This isn't about simping for Maduro or simping for Chevron, as people say. This is about protecting the energy interests of the United States of America and preventing the CCP in China from taking over the world's largest oil reserves, which could otherwise be used by the United States of America to bolster our own economy and our own energy independence. So I am sorry. Maybe if I put that in Spanish, the Congresswoman will understand it better than if I'm speaking English. But last time I checked, President Trump signed an executive order declaring English the official language of the United States of America. ¿Entiendes, María? ¿Necesitas una translación? Inglés es la idioma oficial en los Estados Unidos. ¿Entiendes? Yeah, I can speak Spanish too, but I'm not speaking Spanish because, you know, it's supposed to assimilate here in the United States of America, but whatever. Apparently that's something that Maria Salazar doesn't really understand. Let's go to the chat. It's just, and you know what's going to happen is they're going to use this to attack President Trump. They're going to say, oh, well, now China is getting a victory over the United States of America. They're going to use it to attack President Trump in the media. So you're going to see. You're going to see. Pretty unfortunate. Well, be sure that you're checking out Loomer.com. Again, all of those articles are on the website. And again, follow my X account. I'm going to be putting a lot of reports out through the weekend. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, so hopefully all of you have a safe weekend. Again, I want to remind you to follow me on Rumble, rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Follow me on X at Laura Loomer and also on X at Loomer Unleashed. Be sure that if you have any tips, you can submit them to me in my DMs. I definitely go through a lot of tips from people every single day who contact me and send me information and go through them. My team and I work very hard to go through all of these tips on a daily basis so that we can report exclusive investigations to you, things that you're not going to see on any mainstream media channel. Also, thanks so much to everybody for all the really nice birthday wishes. I really appreciate that. If you want to support our show here, you can support me by subscribing on X at Laura Loomer for $7 a month, or you can click the Rumble link on my channel, click Get Loomered, and that will take you to my locals page where you can subscribe for $7 a month or $70 a year. That will take you to the locals page, or you can make a one-time donation, or if you don't want to use X or Rumble, you can make a one-time donation on buymeacoffee.com/Laura Loomer, buymeacoffee.com/Laura Loomer. And that's where you can support my work and support the show here at Loomer Unleashed, which is supported by independent sponsors like Kirk Elliott, Precious Metals, and Grossi, and the American people, and just the great viewers of the show who support free speech and support independent media and investigative journalism. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't boat and drink at the same time. I'm probably going to go to the beach where I'll be doing some sleuthing from my phone. And I'll probably celebrate my birthday since I was working yesterday on my birthday. I'm 32. I'm getting kind of old now, 32 years old. So I suppose I should take some time this weekend to actually celebrate and maybe have a slice of birthday cake. But with that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Tuesday for another live episode of Loomer Unleashed. Thanks so much for watching.
There is a young female journalist, conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems will be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained her.
Shoot my line with the 15 rounds.
America is built on hard work and powered by American energy. Chevron fuels communities nationwide, spending $44 billion since 2022 with local businesses across 50 states. Learn how Chevron is building a brighter future here at home.
We're America's beverage companies, making American products with American workers in America's hometowns, creating good-paying jobs, the kind that require only a strong work ethic, because we believe in the promise of America and the people who make it great.
is a young female journalist, conservative journalist by the name of Laura Loomer.
If America's men acted like Laura Loomer, our problems would be fixed in about 5 minutes.
Chained herself to
She
Twitter.
chained herself.
Well, good evening and welcome to episode 121 of Loomer Unleashed. I'm your host, Laura Loomer. We are live right now on Rumble and X, so please be sure that you head on over to rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Rumble.com/Laura Loomer. Be sure that you click that green follow button and also make sure that you are subscribed to Rumble. You want to download the Rumble app on your phone and enable notifications and then click the follow button. That way you never miss a notification every time we go live. I'm live twice a week. We're looking to add another show due to popularity of the show, just growing demand. Loomer Unleashed is everywhere. I can't even keep up with the news cycle because every single day the media is talking about everything that is being reported here on Loomer Unleashed because we really are the tip of the spear as it relates to reporting news and holding politicians on both sides of the aisle accountable. We really are driving the narrative and we're not simply reporting on news. We are the news. We are creating news here at Loomer Unleashed. And so also if you're watching live, please be sure that you head on over to X and follow me at Laura Loomer and Loomer Unleashed, and be sure that you retweet the live link right now. We got thousands of people viewing. We have a pretty anticipated episode tonight. We're going to be talking about the worsening White House vetting crisis. Now, this is something that I decided to make a beat, right? I didn't realize it was going to be taking over entire episodes of my show. I really created this segment on my show about a month and a half or so ago, when I saw just all of the terrible picks, right? There's so many bad picks for positions within the Trump administration. And there's also a lot of Biden holdovers still left over. And look, I love President Trump. I am one of President Trump's, if not President Trump's biggest advocate. And I say that because I'm not working for President Trump. I'm not getting paid by President Trump. I'm not in the Trump White House. I wasn't even on the Trump campaign. And yet I feel like every single day it's a full-time job just to make sure the president is protected and that he's receiving the information that he needs to receive and that people are doing their due diligence and vetting on a lot of the people who have been welcomed into the Trump administration and welcomed into the White House. The president kind of made a deal with the devil when he decided to welcome Democrats into his cabinet in this agreement to get the Maha movement over, to MAGA, even though they like to differentiate themselves as an entirely different movement, right? These people call themselves Maha. They don't really call themselves MAGA. And really, it's the MAGA base that got Donald Trump elected and put Donald Trump in the White House. And you see that there's a lot of these, Maha operatives who, in my opinion, they operate like terrorists in a sense, right? And it's almost like they're holding members of the Trump administration hostage, where they, put a metaphorical gun to Trump's head and they say, well, Bobby Kennedy is not going to drop out of the presidential election unless you give us everything that we want. And if you don't give us everything that we want, then we're going to have Bobby have a contingent election and you're not going to be president and it's going to be a contingent election. No, that's not me making that up. No, that's not a conspiracy theory. That was literally the entire game plan of the Kennedy campaign, was the idea that Kennedy and the funders of his American Values PAC were literally out there talking to the media about how they wanted to create a contingent election. What does that mean? That's when neither candidate on the ballot gets 270 electoral votes, and thus you have a contingent election, and then the president of the United States is then decided by members of Congress. So they wanted to actually deprive, every single citizen of this country, the Kennedy campaign, just so people understand, what these people represent and what Kennedy supporters are all about. These people wanted to completely deprive every single American citizen of their right to elect their own president. They knew that he couldn't win an election. They knew it. And what did they do? They used people like Nicole Shanahan to fund Bobby Kennedy's campaign. And they were very strategic in the states that they wanted him to be in the ballot on. And American Values PAC was admitting this to the media, that their goal is to create a contingent election so that neither candidate would receive 270 electoral votes. So this was a sabotage effort from the very beginning. You could almost accuse these people of trying to extort Donald Trump and his political allies. And so then when push came to shove and Bobby Kennedy realized that, Biden wasn't going to allow him to have Secret Service, and when he wasn't allowed to debate on the Democrat stage and he decided to be an independent, right? And then he realized that wasn't going to go anywhere and they were running out of money. Then he finally came to the table after, he recorded President Trump's phone call with him behind President Trump's back, if you recall that really messy scandal, and then released that tape publicly to the media as like a power move on Donald Trump. And then shortly after that, right, it's like people saying kumbaya, held hands, and then we saw them on stage together at a Turning Point event in, I believe it was Arizona. And then, there's all this talk about Bobby Kennedy being nominated after the election to oversee HHS. So why do I bring this up? Because I just think that it's really important for people to understand that Kennedy and his supporters in Maha were never true Trump supporters, right? Everything they did was done out of extortion. They literally tried to extort Donald Trump, and they tried to extort the MAGA movement. And so these aren't people who operate in good faith. It's not like these Kennedy supporters or people in the Maha movement who came from the Kennedy camp. Because look, the Maha movement itself existed prior to Kennedy running for president, right? This was a coalition of mothers and concerned parents who were trying to raise awareness about vaccine injured children who got autism as a result of getting vaccines. We know that vaccines cause autism. And then you had all these grifters that decided to attach themselves to the Kennedy presidential campaign, who then wanted to make money hawking their books and hawking their supplements and, posting on Instagram and trying to pretend like they're, suburban housewife celebrities, right? Creating these kind of cult-like followings where they, really misrepresented themselves as advocates for the people when really they were just trying to extort President Trump and the MAGA movement the entire time so that they could gain political influence and financial influence and enrich themselves and their family members. We're going to talk about this tonight with my upcoming guest, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, who unfortunately had to have negative interactions and experiences with many of these individuals in the Maha movement. And she has a lot of firsthand experience and firsthand knowledge that she's going to share with us tonight as somebody who really is a true medical professional, a real licensed doctor who is trying to treat people and help people who have been injured by vaccines and provide adequate medical care. And we're going to have a conversation tonight about this worsening White House vetting crisis. I want to tee this up for you. How did we all, come to talking about this, and why is there now this civil war erupting in Maha and MAGA? Well, look, President Trump is surrounded by people who want to exercise nepotism as it relates to their appointments, right? You have a lot of people that have their own personal financial ties, their own personal preferences as it relates to enriching themselves, enriching their companies, wanting to put their kids in positions in the White House, trying to, help their nieces, their nephews, their in-laws, right? We've seen this incestuous, meritless system of political appointments on both sides of the aisle. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or, you're talking about the Trump administration. And unfortunately, right, when Donald Trump made the, in my opinion, misguided decision of And who knows if it was even Trump, right? Because I personally believe that a lot of these appointments were made by other people. And then they just were like, yeah, President Trump, this person's great. Trust us. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't ask any questions. Just appoint this person, right? So somebody, right, appointed Michael Waltz or convinced Donald Trump to appoint Michael Waltz as National Security Advisor. Well, you know, he's since been demoted and exiled to Siberia, and now he's the UN ambassador. It's kind of a nothing position. But I suppose the White House just didn't want to deal with another rogue former staffer writing a tell-all book and trashing Trump in the press, which is what, you know, we saw as a daily occurrence in the first Trump administration. So they bring on Michael Waltz, right? They pull him out of his Florida congressional seat, which causes chaos here in the state of Florida. And then, you know, as we saw, right, following my meeting with President Trump, obviously the president felt compelled to demote Michael Waltz and fire a lot of the officials that he appointed at NSC. Well, when they brought on Michael Waltz, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, we're going to have Jeanette Nishwat be the Surgeon General. And everybody was like, well, this woman is a Fox News pundit, you know, like where did this woman come from? She's just kind of like this, you know, like low grade doctor on TV who's, you know, hawking the COVID vaccines, telling everybody that they're a danger to society and that they're causing harm to our country if they don't get vaccinated, even after we had data that showed that these vaccines were more like death shots, right? And they were killing kids and, you know, like all these stories of young children dropping dead on soccer fields, young, healthy, pregnant mothers dropping dead, having aneurysms, right? Young athletes having to give up their dreams because they got myocarditis, young people getting turbo cancer. I mean, look, even the First Lady of Florida got diagnosed with breast cancer shortly after her and her husband decided to get jabbed, right? And push the jab on everybody else here in the state of Florida. So, you know, now we're dealing with the consequences of this mass jab campaign, turbo cancer, myocarditis, all types of health issues, right? I thank God every day that I never took the COVID jab, but I had enough common sense to, you know, actually read the insert and to not inject myself with an experimental DNA modifier. A lot of people just didn't have that common sense. So, you know, Jeanette faced a lot of criticism and a lot of people wanted her gone. And she was supposed to be confirmed in front of the Senate yesterday. Well, over the weekend, I decided to release an expose on her. And I know for a fact that it made its way to the desk of the president. And I believe that sometime over the weekend, they decided, I was told actually that they decided to rescind her nomination. And so Jeanette had her nomination pulled. And you know, I was hoping that they were going to pick somebody as her replacement who is actually more qualified. But then I guess Bobby Kennedy decided that he was going to go to President Trump and provide his own personal recommendation. So from what I was told, Bobby Kennedy then, and we have this article here up on the screen. So let's just show everybody, right? Trump pulls Surgeon General pick following Laura Loomer complaints. Dr. Jeanette Nishwat was slated to appear for a confirmation hearing on Thursday. You can scroll down. President Trump pulled his nomination of Dr. Jeanette Nishwat as U.S. Surgeon General Wednesday, just a day before she was expected to appear before the Senate for her confirmation hearing. Dr. Casey Means is the new pick, Trump said in a True Social post. Her academic achievements, right? That's the first thing that Trump leads with. Why? Because Bobby Kennedy, after he got wind that they were going to pull the nomination of Jeanette Nishwat, went to Trump and said, you have to nominate this woman, Casey Means. She's phenomenal. She was top of her class at Stanford, right? And look, I know President Trump, everybody knows that President Trump really values educational pedigree. And so for some reason, President Trump thought that it was a good accomplishment for her to be top of her class at Stanford, when really the president and his advisors should have been asking, well, what are her medical credentials, right? Like, you're going to be the U.S. Surgeon General. What are your credentials? Well, it turns out that Casey Means doesn't even have a valid medical license. So now it's caused this whole controversy, and a lot of people, including my next guest, who's going to be joining me momentarily, has a lot to say about this. Because, you know, you would think that if you want somebody who's going to be the spokesperson for the medical field and somebody who's going to be the spokesperson as it relates to medical advice in our country, it's somebody that should at least be an active practicing physician, a licensed physician. But unfortunately, you know, that's not what we're seeing. And so Before we get to my next guest, Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, I want to just take a moment to thank the sponsor of tonight's episode of Loomer Unleashed, and that is Kirk Elliott Precious Metals.
Breaking news. Laura Loomer has been canceled. The President of the United States has refused to take her phone calls as he suspects she is soon to be arrested.
Is Laura Loomer the most hated person on planet Earth? We want to hear from you, the listener, and get your opinion on whether or not...
Man, I tell you, I heard she got canceled. We coming for you, bitch. We coming to your house, Laura Loomer. We fight. We know where you live. We coming for you right now. We coming for your friends. We coming for your friend's little dog.
Frankly, I hope they throw her away for the rest of her life. I hope she dies.
She is currently on the run from authorities. She is described as armed and dangerous.
I just can't believe she's been getting away with it for this. An angry mob appears to be forming outside the home of journalist Laura Loomer.
What is wrong with you? Why are you not panicking?
Because I called Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, and I learned how adding gold and silver to my portfolio is one of the safest ways to not just grow my finances, but to also protect them from the uncertainty of the future. So I'm fine.
Call economist Kirk Elliott at 720-605-3900 or schedule a call online at kepm.com/Loomer to learn how you can safely grow your retirement portfolio with precious metals.
Be sure that you head on over to kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer, and call the professionals and the great, amazing team over at Kirk Elliott Precious Metals. There couldn't be a better time to invest in precious metals and diversify your portfolio. And what better way to do it than with a company that supports free speech, a company with an America First mindset. Dr. Kirk Elliott is your go-to choice for precious metals and gold. You can visit their website, kepm.com/Loomer, or give them a call, 720-605-3900, and find out how you can protect your financial future by investing in precious metals and diversify your portfolio. Again, let them know that Laura Loomer sent you. Check out the landing page, kepm.com/Loomer, kepm.com/Loomer. All right. What we've all been waiting for now. Joining me now to discuss the implosion with the recent nomination of Casey Means as the new U.S. Surgeon General and what it means for public health and medicine in America and what it means as it relates to the trust of the American people as it pertains to the field of medicine and science is Dr. Mary Talley Bowden. Doctor, thank you so much. It's great to actually have a real licensed medical professional joining me tonight. I'm kind of shocked and perplexed that, you have to have a license to cut hair in the United States of America, but you don't have to have a license to be the U.S. Surgeon General.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, it's funny because I don't think 5 years ago I would have cared whatsoever who the Surgeon General was, but I think this pick is significant because we're coming off the heels of the largest public health crisis in our lifetime. And the biggest issue we have, besides these mRNA shots that the government is recommending all babies get 3 of by the time they're 9 months old, but besides that is trust. And I see that every day in my office. I mean, people are scared to go to other doctors. They're scared to go to the hospital. They're scared to take basic medications like antibiotics because the government destroyed trust and doctors destroyed trust. And this is an opportunity for the government to help restore trust by sending out a messenger who is credible. And to be credible, you have to be credentialed. And I have nothing personally against Casey Means, but she did not complete her training, period. So let me explain to you what medical training is, because there seems to be a lot of confusion out there. First of all, 4 years of college. Then you do 4 years of medical school. That's everybody. You get a medical license after 4 years of medical school. That does not mean that you are allowed to go out and start treating patients. After the 4 years of medical school, then you do a residency. And the length of that residency varies depending on what you decide to focus on. So a primary care doctor typically does 3 years. A surgeon typically does at least 5 years. As an ENT, and that's what I am, I'm also an ENT, we do 5 years of residency. So the entire process is at least 9 years. Casey dropped out at year 8, 4 years into her residency. So she did not complete her training and she has not maintained her license. She can't write prescriptions. And I can tell you, I am a much different doctor now than I was in my 4th year of residency. There is something completely, just very invaluable to go into a room with a patient multiple times a day, sit down, hear their problems. You live medicine, you experience medicine. It trains you along the way, and you're just, without that experience, it's hard for anybody to have their finger on the pulse of what is going on in healthcare. I mean, I'm very tempted to retire after everything that's happened, but I don't want to because I feel like it really keeps me knowing what's going on with people.
Yeah, and not just the level of trust with the American people after, the China virus killed 1.2 million American citizens and millions of other people around the world, but I think also we need to have a level of trust within this relationship between medical professionals in their own community. And what I worry about is you have somebody like Casey Means who, not only she didn't finish her residency, and she has told this fantastical story all over various podcasts. And it's very strange to me. Her and her brother just kind of came out of nowhere, and then they're at the top of the podcasts, and it's like the most viewed Tucker Carlson show, and they're on Joe Rogan, and they're on all these shows, and it just seems very inorganic. And I've been around in this industry for a very long time, and I know what an astroturfed campaign looks like when I see one, and I know what it looks like when a movement has financing behind it and when a movement is truly organic. And it's strange to me that she, created this whole storyline around how she didn't finish her residency because she thought that, it was so corrupt and her patients weren't getting better. And yet we found out today in an explosive article that came out in the LA Times that she actually didn't finish her residency because she has this severe anxiety disorder, according to her colleagues, who said that she came to them saying she couldn't complete her residency and do her work because of the anxiety that she was dealing with, the stress. So, I mean, that's not somebody who, practice. It'd be one thing if you had a private practice for years and, you were a renowned surgeon and you were just like so disillusioned with the medical field. And we saw a lot of those people, right? They had their licenses taken from them because they wanted to prescribe hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And they were attacked by Big Pharma during the lockdowns and the COVID crisis in our country. But that's not the case with her. She clearly has something to hide. And, just like you wouldn't, there's standards in the military, right? Like if you had a certain surgery or you've ever taken antidepressants, you literally cannot go and serve in the military. You will be disqualified and you will not pass the recruitment paperwork. I think there should be some standards, right, for whoever's going to be the Surgeon General. Now, you don't have to be an actual surgeon to be the Surgeon General, which is strange given the fact that it's called U.S. Surgeon General. But you would expect that this person should at least have an active medical license. And my concern is that, this woman has more to hide than she's really, bringing to the table. And it's pretty obvious that the Trump administration did not do any vetting into her. It appears that she was fast-tracked into this role, given her ties to RFK Jr. and the fact that her own brother, Callie Means,